here we go. After an exciting week one, it's time to wrap up week one and get ready for week two with the week two power rankings presented to you by your league commissioner. I apologize after week or before week one after the draft. I just simply did not have time to do a power rankings video. After getting all the rosters set, figuring out what the hell ESPN wanted me to do, I just simply did not have enough time with Bears Packers as well starting Thursday night to do a power rankings. So that's why I'm going to come back with you with the week two power rankings so we don't disappoint. Again, if you want to see the standings of our league after week one, who won, who lost, who's the top five teams in our league, who's the bottom five, look at the ESPN standings. These are my power rankings. My opinion goes into these. The future outlook, again, probably my opinion, but also based around some facts of what we have with injuries, updates, anything like that. But most importantly, the power rankings, what they go off of is the power rankings go off of what I think a team can likely repeat. So can they repeat, 80-point weeks? Can they repeat mediocre 100-point weeks? Can they repeat 120-point weeks? So that means a team like Matt Davis, if I think he can repeat 80-point weeks, he's going to be my 10th team on here. If I think Matt Davis can do better than 80 points a week and still has a better team over somebody, if I think Matt Davis is a 110-point team, he just had a bad week, then he might be over and number 8 or 9 over somebody else. Your record from last week kind of plays a part, but not so much. It's who can repeat their awful weeks, who can repeat their good weeks. That being said, my number one team is myself. Kevin had a great week one, putting up 137 points. That's good enough for the second most points in the league. The reason I have myself at number one, obviously, you got to respect the Super Bowl champion. He's 1-0. Great start to the year, right where he left off. The other thing is, I wasted so much draft capital on running backs. I drafted Christian McCaffrey, obviously workhorse, my keeper. Aaron Jones dropped 4 points against the best defense in the league. It's not every week that he's going to be playing the Chicago Bears. Josh Jacobs, looking great already. On my bench, I have Matt Breida. I have Malcolm Brown, who had a great week. It just looks like he's going to be the touchdown vulture. I have depth at running back. I waited and waited on wide receivers. Though my wide receivers, Juju, 10 points, didn't catch a touchdown. His offense put up 3 points, and he still got 10 points. T.Y. Hilton looks like the only wide receiver on the Colts. Emmanuel Sanders last night looks like the old Emmanuel Sanders. 80 yards and a touchdown. Game in and game out, Emmanuel Sanders will score that. My wide receivers are plentiful. My running backs are plentiful. I like my team going forward to repeat these performances often in the future. Coming in at number 2, I actually have a surprise pick, probably the first surprise in the power rankings already, is Josh Kerr. Josh Kerr's team I like going forward. Damian Williams, 15 points. Travis Kelce, 10 points. I don't think those are repeat performances. I think both of those players in the future get more points than that. Sammy Watkins dominated the game. Sammy Watkins will be good going forward. But these players that are on Josh's team underperformed, and he still won and put up 112 points. David Montgomery on the Bears. Oh my God, run the ball. David Montgomery will be a great running back once the Bears decide to use him. He will drop 15 to 20 points a week. You add 15 or 20 points to Josh's total, he's looking at like 130. I think that's very repeatable for Josh Kerr's team. That's why I have him at number 2 in my power rankings going up. Coming in at number 3, I have Tyler Colin. He raised the most on my power rankings after the draft and week 1. Tyler's team, simply, they put up a huge point total this week. I don't think it's repeatable for Lamar Jackson to do what he did. I don't think it's repeatable for Dalvin Cook to do what he did. Evan Ingram, probably not. That was just garbage time that Evan Ingram got most of those points. But the fact of the matter is, he set a great lineup. He also has Austin Eckler on his bench. I would assume he's going to start Austin Eckler next week over probably Leonard Fournette. That guy is trash. But Josh's team going forward, I mean, that depth of having Austin Eckler on your bench, he looks like the real deal out in San Diego. I mean, LA, sorry. But it looks like Tyler's team going forward can raise this high. I think I have him number 7 in my power rankings last, so I'm moving all the way up to number 3 just because of that great week 1 and where I think his team stands. I could see his team moving up even further in the coming weeks. Coming in at number 4, I have Ryan Naughton, and I have him falling. The reason I have him falling is after draft day. I mean, I would have had this guy falling a lot farther than he is now, actually. So I guess he's kind of raising because I would have put him at team like 7 or 8 probably. Ryan Naughton did put up a win this week, but the fact of the matter is, his team does not look great. I think his team peaked almost this week, besides Devontae Adams. But besides that, Tevin Coleman's injured. Saquon Barkley, the Giants look like garbage. The Dallas Cowboys are not the best team in the NFL, and Saquon Barkley only put up 15. I do see Saquon regressing this year. I say he averages between 15 and 22 points every week. So I don't like where Ryan Naughton stands right now. I think his team depth is not there. I mean, just look at his bench. Yikes. The only guy that really put up points on his bench was the Detroit Lions tight end. And again, Ryan Naughton's going to have a big headache at tight end this year. I don't like Ryan Naughton's team going forward. If I had to pick one team that will drop in the future and one team that will rise in the future, it would be Tyler Cole and Ryan Naughton. They're obviously still kind of sort of at the top. Ryan Naughton, I mean, he had 2 number 1 picks. I think he fucked that up. Coming in at number 5, I have Drew Michael. Drew Michael is our first team to appear on the power rankings that lost this week. I have Drew Michael here simply because his team is looking good. Kerryon Johnson, only 7 points this week. George Kittle, 9 points. That's all right. Not from George Kittle, though. Denver defense, -1. I just think this team had an off week, and it dropped 125 points. Drew's team is pretty scary moving forward. Kerryon Johnson, though, needs to get it together for this team to improve upon. But I like this team a lot. Looks like it has the number 1 wide receiver from Washington. That's why I really have Drew here at the number 5 spot ahead of the other team that won this week, is because I think having that number 1 wide receiver actually from Washington will prove of value here in the future. Coming in at number 6, I have Jake Kerr. Jake Kerr is falling. I had Jake high before the draft. Even after the draft, I think a lot of us had Jake higher than maybe we should have. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Jake will figure it out like he does every year. But the fact of the matter is, Jake put up a loss this week. David Johnson, up until that final drive with Kyler Murray, maybe Kyler Murray figures it out and David Johnson gets better. But I think David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay are both very average wide receivers. The Cleveland Browns look like they suck. Don't get me wrong. This could be all a big overreaction. But Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson didn't have great weeks. David Johnson did put up big points, 22. But again, 10 of that came on that last drive that they had in. Delaney Walker's not putting up 20 every week, just straight up. I still like that Jake has Antonio Brown on his bench. But if you watch the Patriots game, oh my God, Julian Edelman, Dante Moncrief, Josh Gordon, James White, Rex Burkhead, they're all catching passes. I don't know who to start on the Patriots offense. It's a great offense. And those fantasy players do have some value. They just don't have consistency value. So I would be scared moving forward with Antonio Brown in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if Jake tries trading him away here. But Jake's team for right now will be in this middle section of, kind of lost in, this land of I don't know what to do with. Just because Jake obviously putting up the loss this week, I really don't see where his team is going right now. I don't have a good idea of it. There's no identity set in Jake's team right now. Coming in at number 7, I have him rising. I have Ryan Smith, who put up a loss this week to Ross Davis, and you don't see Ross Davis on these power rankings. That is simply because Ryan Smith's team is better. Uh, Ryan Smith's team, Ezekiel Elliott, weak performance. Mike Evans, just a terrible week. Baker Mayfield, I mean, 3 interceptions. I don't think Baker will throw 3 picks again. That is a career worst for Baker Mayfield. I think they all came in the fourth quarter, too. Um, just an awful week for Ryan Smith, and he still put up 100 points. I mean, it was just a great week between Ross and Ryan Smith. Great week, great battle. But the problem is, Ross's team, I could see doing that again. Atlanta looked awful. Granted, they were playing a good Vikings defense, but Atlanta looked awful. DeAndre Hopkins dropped 27 points. He had a great day, and Ross still only put up 102 points. I just, with all the Atlanta Falcons on Ross's team, I just don't see how his team can be good. But again, back to Ryan Smith coming in at number 7 with this matchup. I just think there's so much room for growth in Ryan Smith's team. I would not be surprised seeing Ryan Smith's team shoot upwards here after this week, coming into week 2, week 3. I think there's some potential on this team. I just want to see it first. Again, Ezekiel Elliott, awful week. Mike Evans, awful week. Those are both great players. Coming in at number 8, I have Matt Davis. This might be a surprise to some of you. Like I said before, if I think you can repeat that performance, Matt Davis's team, I just simply don't think this will happen again. Sony Michel, 1.4 points. That's not happening again. Jameis Winston, 4 points. He threw 3 interceptions. That's not happening again. And if it does, Matt, just pick up a better quarterback. Pick up Matt Stafford off of waivers. Pick up Andy Dalton. Pick up, God, any of the 10 next quarterbacks, and you will improve your team by 20 points. Easy. Easy. Tyreek Hill got injured that game. I mean, that just sucks. That's a week 1 injury. If Jameis Winston turns it around, O.J. Howard turns it around. I mean, O.J. Howard had an awful week. Stephon Diggs, they were just running the ball against the Atlanta Falcons because, again, they suck. I see Matt Davis's team don't hit the panic button. That's what I would say to Matt Davis. I do have him falling 1 spot in the power rankings just because Ryan Smith, obviously, I see doing better than Matt Davis. But I would not hit the panic button on Matt Davis's team. I think he obviously had the worst week. That's why I think he has the biggest opportunity to grow here. I see Matt Davis averaging around 100, 110 points a week. We'll see that going into the future. Obviously, there's Sacco Bowl talk already with him being 2-time Sacco and him scoring the lowest points, but I would not worry about this team whatsoever. It had just awful luck this week. Coming in at number 9, I have Ross Davis. I have him rising just because I had him at number 10 before the draft without a keeper. Ross Davis' team, again, I was talking about it with Ryan Smith. Just had to talk those two together because of that battle that they had week 1. But Ross's team just has too many Falcons straight up. Ross Davis' team, I don't like at all. I see him repeating around that 100, 110 mark week in, week out. I don't see much improvement coming from this team. I think they're going to stay right about what they were week 1. Coming in at number 10, I have Cubby. Cubby, I think, by far has the worst team. The reason I say this, he put up 98 points. So let me justify this. I think this is the most repeatable to put up below 100. The reasoning behind that is Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb prove what they were to be. Joe Mixon is terrible. The Bengals offensive line is awful. He wasted a 2nd-round pick. Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett, yeah, he got thrown a touchdown, but 1 reception, 40 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, that was just luck of the draw there. I think that offense sucks as a passing offense. I don't think there's much fantasy value there. Marlon Mack went into overtime and was his highest total points at 25. I just don't see that as repeatable. I do like Marlon Mack, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's repeatable. I think just Cubby has a headache at wide receiver. I don't think he'll be able to trade away any of these guys. They're just also average. He's going to get nothing for them, slim to nothing, for his wide receivers. And also, it's just going to be a headache to set his lineup. An absolute headache to set his lineup. I see Cubby making a lot of mistakes going forward. I don't like his team. For that reason, I have him at number 10. I think he's the most likely to repeat at this bottom of the barrel. Luckily, for everybody who lost this week, don't get me wrong, huge changes are ahead in the future here because everybody who lost this week is obviously above the winners on the waiver wire. But I think this year is the first year where we don't have a huge pickup that'll happen on the waiver wire week 1 or week 2. I think we drafted everyone. Props to everybody in our league. This was probably the best draft we've ever had. Besides Ross on the Bengals, I don't think there's another great waiver wire pickup this week. I think wide receiver for the Bengals will be the number 1 pickup this week. With AJ Green out, it looks like he's going to be number 1. But yeah, those are my power rankings week 1. Stay tuned, obviously, for the weeks coming. A lot can change in the future here. I'm just trying to pick out every team's identity. Who has, a running back identity? Who has, the best running backs? Who has the best wide receivers? Whose team underperformed? Who overperformed? Those are a lot of things that I look at after week 1. Look forward to week 2. So my last segment of the power rankings is the takeaways that we had from week 1. Just a recap of kind of why I ranked you, where I did, what I'm looking for, what was proven true, what was proven false. My first takeaway is Cubby's team is bad and bleeding. Cubby's team, it shows the value of losing your number 1 pick. Is what it does. Giving 2 number 1 picks to a team like Ryan Naughton. Obviously, Ryan Naughton didn't execute too well on those 2 number 1 picks. But when you have a number 1 pick, you pick the for sure guy. Alvin Kamara dropped 20 points. Christian McCaffrey dropped 30 points. Even look like a number 1 pick like Tyler Colin, for example. Picking those for sure guys that are going to drop point totals. Cubby in the first, second round didn't pick those for sure guys. That really showed week 1. I think it'll show time in and time out throughout the season. I think Joe Mixon was probably one of the worst picks of the draft, actually, with pick number 2. I said it while we were at the draft. We were talking about the worst pick the day after when we brought the draft board outside. I'll stay true to that throughout the season. Coming in at number 2, Matt Davis can't escape the Sacco Bowl talk. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone in the league is talking about it. Matt Davis, 82 points week 1. That is rough. We'll look for a rebound week 2. If there's no rebound week 2, I would think it's time to actually hit the panic button after week 2 or week 3 on this team and start making some drastic changes. Obviously, he gets first pick on the waiver wire. He should pick up the Bengals wide receiver. That would help out his team a lot. He also needs some running back help. But we'll see where this team goes in the future. But right now, Matt Davis is definitely the favorite for the Sacco Bowl. I think it might be a Matt Davis Cubby Bowl. Coming in at number 3, waivers. I said this in the power rankings. I'll say it again. Waivers, is there anything really out there right now? I don't think so. Besides flipping maybe your defense and your kicker, maybe picking up some people. But I don't think waivers are really going to kick in until some of these players start getting injured. And I don't wish injury on any team. But I think that's when the only time waivers are really going to come into play. We have that IR spot. We lock up a lot of players with our huge rosters. We have bigger rosters than most leagues. We lock up a lot of great players with that. I don't think there's anything really great out there in waivers right now. Coming in at number 4, the tallest midget competition is between Ross and Ryan Smith in week 1. Congratulations to Ross beating Ryan Smith. You beat the guy who went 0-13 in the league last year. I find this game, it was great, and I loved watching it, especially unravel on Monday Night Football. Just great. Both players are on the same offense. One guy had a big play. The other guy had a big play. But I just think when it comes down to it, it really doesn't matter. I think both these teams are just very average at the moment anyway. Again, so much can happen. But right now, it was 100 to 102. Great win. It will matter, obviously, coming into Week 12 and Week 13 when we're talking playoffs. But right now, we just don't see the effects of that game. Again, it'll play in later. But right now, it's just like, oh, okay, well, Russ is more average, I guess, than Ryan Smith, who's less average. Coming in at number 5, Jake Scare or same old. Jake obviously dropped the first game of the season. He dropped the first 3 games of the season, like myself last year. And look how that turned out for both of us. Obviously, very well. Um, but Jake does come into a scary situation. I was kind of explaining it in the power rankings. His running back situation is just not great. His wide receivers could be just pan out to be average. With Sammy Watkins on his bench, I'm interested to see if he plays Sammy Watkins here in the future. I mean, I'd be kind of scared to play him in the future. But Jake's team, I mean, there's a lot. I think Jake has the most team management to work on in the next 2-3 weeks here, just because there's so many question marks. He has so many all-star players that just underperform, but have been known to underperform. So I'm interested to see Jake's roster going forward. This is definitely scary, but it could also be, we could look at it at week 6 or week 7 and be like, oh, Jake's making the playoffs. Just starts a little scary, obviously going 0-1. Look forward to week 2. Great week 1, everyone. The hype has definitely, everything's lived up to it. It really has. Between the off season we did, the off season has been very involved with keepers, the draft, just even draft order. Week 1 lived up to all that. I mean, I just fucking pounded Cubby. I just pounded him. I knew I would. I knew I would after I won the Shiva Bowl, and I was setting the season up. And, you got to play another Shiva Bowl week 1. And it just proves that I'm better than Cubby on all levels of life, especially fantasy football. So I look forward to week 2. Me and Tyler, again, another Shiva Bowl matchup. It should be a good one. Look forward to week 2. It all starts with Carolina and Tampa Bay already this Thursday. Stay tuned in the group chat. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about the power rankings and the takeaways. Again, best of luck in week 2, except for Tyler.